We're not out of it. All right, and we're really going to dive into this next conversation. It's something we talked about yesterday. It's something the entire nation is talking about this morning, and it's our story. It happened here in Northern California, Sac PD. Liz Kreutz is going to break all of this down, but we know this story is about Stephon Clark. This is about Sacramento Police Department. It's about the Sheriff Department as well. It's about the 22-year-old who was gunned down, and he was killed, and he was unarmed. And so let's go to Liz right now, and she's going to have that full breakdown as to what happened, because the body cam footage of the police officers was released yesterday. So here's the breakdown.
So let me walk you through the video now. It is not bloody, but I want to warn you that it could be disturbing. We're going to start here with the helicopter video. You can see the suspect running from the officers, even right here, climbing over a fence into his grandmother's backyard where he lived. Now, as he gets there, you can see the officers on either side approaching the home. We're going to show you now the perspective from one of the body camera videos.
Hey, show me your hands! Stop! Stop!
The officers chase him around the corner in the backyard. Here, we've even frozen this image. You can see the suspect standing there in the dark. Now, take a listen.
Show me your hands! Show me your hands! Gun! Oh. 5-7 shots fired. Subject down.
We now know they fired at least 20 shots, and we're going to show you that same moment from the air right now. Again, I want to warn you that it could be disturbing. We're going to replay that moment. You can see it appears he is walking towards the officers when the suspect is shot. And here's the body camera footage from after those gunfire shots.
Show me your hands! See your hands! 5-7, he's down. No movement. We're going to need additional units. Come in from the west to east of the yard. Let's see your hands! You alright? You hit? Yeah, I'm good. Alright. He was still pointing when I saw getting. You alright, dude? Yeah, I'm alright. I don't think I've hit or anything. Alright.
I got him at gunpoint, dude.
Right. You wanna, what you wanna do?
Do a tactical reload, okay?
Alright, copy.
I think I shot about 5 times. Stand by.
Stand by on that. He's still down, he's not moving. We can't see the gun.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Alright, I'm gonna reload.
Alright, go. I got you. Go.
You got a light on him?
Got him. Negative. Neither one of us are hit. We're okay. Suspect's down.
Okay, so for some of you, that was your first time listening. Right. That was your first time seeing what that camera footage, that body cam footage looked like. And also we see from the SAC Sheriff helicopter view. Right. And also you can find these full unedited versions of the videos right now on abc10.com. But for now, I want to go to Walt Gray, who is going to talk about what this national conversation has been like and what the comments have been like. And before we get to him, I want to have that initial reaction from us, because I watched from my home yesterday for the first time. We have been saying sometime later this week, because they have up to 90 days, they as in the police department have up to 90 days to release this body cam footage. This came out within 72 hours. Right. Relatively quick. I do say, okay, thank you for the transparency.
Absolutely. I think Daniel Hahn had a lot to do with that. He's our police chief here in Sacramento.
First black police chief.
Very important to note that. And I think he needed to set the tone for how this was going to be handled in the next week or so that we're all discussing it. And getting that tape out as quickly as possible was going to put the kibosh on the side conversations, the guesses that people were going to have to make as to what could have happened. Right. Just see it, and then you react to it. And we want to hear what you guys have to say, so keep commenting. We've been talking about this all morning, and you guys have had a lot to say. Yeah. So we will get to that.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Rob.
And, you know, so this is the world that we live in. I have to go to the grocery store to get a couple last-minute items. Pops up on my phone, and I'm watching it in my car in the parking lot of the grocery store. What's amazing about that is that so many people around the country had that same experience of wherever they were. This story has the gravity that is capturing the attention of the whole nation. #1 trending story in Sacramento on Twitter and in other spots. So it's a big story, and that's why we're talking about it today. With that said, I think my initial reaction is, like many, it was hard to see. It's hard to see.
To hear all of those gunshots.
You know, they put so much effort last night putting this together because they want to make sure that we're going through this frame by frame to just explain what is going on. With the helicopter video, they had to put red circles so you can identify those are people, not a dog or not something else, because it's an infrared camera.
This is him, not the police.
Exactly. And then with the officers, it's you're going into a place that you don't know is someone's backyard. You can't see clearly. You're using a flashlight to get aim on somebody that could be very dangerous to you. There's a lot of things that happened. It was very difficult to see, and then it happened very quickly. As officers will always say, I had to make a split-second decision. So I think that we collectively can understand that from watching the video.
And there's also his side, and I want to get to Walt Gray really quick
yeah.
because he breaks all of this down, then we'll come back and talk some more. So go ahead.
It's what the nation is talking about. The body cam police video of the Sunday night shooting of Stephon Clark in Sacramento's Meadowview neighborhood. I've watched every second of this. It remains inconclusive to me. The suspect is clearly running from police and not stopping as they're commanding him to do. You really get a true sense of what police go through in searches like this. They're passing by trash cans and sheds that could easily hide someone with a gun. Their breathing is heavy. It's pitch black outside except for their flashlights. Dogs are barking. When they encounter the suspect, they yell for him to stop. He doesn't. The rest of what happens is up for interpretation. Now, I can't see what the officers saw that made them think that the suspect had a gun. I can't say whether I would have fired 1 round or 20 if I'd been in that position because I'm not trained in that. As it turned out, the suspect did not have a weapon. At the time, the cops did not know that. After all is said and investigated, the suspect likely did not need to die. The last thing Sac PD wanted was what happened. Here's what you're saying right now on my Facebook page. Brian says, at worst, he committed some minor theft. Is that worth a shooting? Brian, to Janice, he did not need to die. Don't run from police, and when they yell for you to stop after so many other shootings, you would think this was a no-brainer. That is, if he wasn't doing anything wrong. And Sharon says, you're all Monday morning quarterbacks. Police are taught to shoot, not scare. They don't know if he had a gun. A police officer doesn't wait until he or she gets shot to start shooting. Put yourself in their shoes. Jeez. So what do you think? It is a spirited conversation, still ongoing. Leave me a comment on my Facebook page, Walt Gray News.
So again, you can leave those comments on his Facebook page or right now with us in the comment section below. And we're seeing a lot of these comments come through. Ariana, are you seeing anything that sticks out particularly?
I first have to say this. I was nervous. Like, I sat down to watch this video, and before I did it, I just needed to clear my thoughts to say, you know what? I need to see both sides of this. I need to figure out the timing of everything from when the police saw Stephon, how quickly they reacted. I really knew that I wanted to process this as efficiently and effectively as possible. And after watching it, it was really difficult for me to piece everything together timeline-wise. And so you think about the police force side, and very quickly they say, gun, gun. Like they thought they saw a gun. And
object in hand.
Right after they said it, the shots were fired. I can't even imagine he had time to put his hands up. Where was that reaction time? And I think that's what I'm seeing in a lot of the comments that I've been going through over the last 8 hours that we've been talking about this. And so reaction time was one. That was probably the top one. Number 2 is why 20 shots? Regardless of whether they were shot directly at his body or around him as warning shots, it was the fact that 20 shots needed to be fired in order to get a man on the ground. That there's a lot of concern there too.
Yeah, same thing. Sat down, watched it, and then watched it about 5 times after that. And then husband Caesar got home, watched it with him again because it's important to understand all the different perspectives, right? And for me, it was that same sort of reaction of, okay, you see them. I put myself in their shoes, as Walt was saying, all day, every day. I come from a family of military people, right, where you go to work and you go to war and you know that your job is to protect and to serve your country, your community. So I have all the respect in the world, and I don't know what that training is like. I haven't been through the training. So do they teach you that if you see something that looks like a gun, you say gun, 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 you take 0.5 seconds and then you shoot 20 times? Is that protocol? And then how many times do you shoot? Is it until they stop breathing? I don't know. So I can't sit here and say that, oh, what they did was right or wrong according to what they have been taught. But I can say from just someone who's looking in, you do still have a ton of questions. And this is something that Walt said yesterday, or you had, you had said this yesterday, even when body cam video comes out, it almost gives us, more, but then it gives us more to speculate, right? It gives us more to look at and say, but why did he do that way? Yes, the pointing of the fingers. We don't want to do that.
Judgment.
But there is that other side. We've talked about the police side. There is that other side. Did he have enough time? Yes, we know his criminal record. Yes, we know that he was, and he ended up in his grandmother's backyard. He jumped a fence in some video that we saw before. So there was someone, they got a call that there was someone breaking in. They got multiple calls that someone was breaking into cars. So that's why they had all of the units on him or on this person, this moving object. But go ahead.
Okay, so the topic will focus on the video today, but I just want to take one step back for a second here, and because you have to understand what was known at the time. Like you mentioned, suspect breaking into cars, allegedly.
Multiple calls.
Yes, they need to respond to that. So now they're approaching the scene and someone's running from you. So of course they have to engage. They have to try and get the subject, figure out what's going on. However, I think that in the moment, as we're talking about this, this situation, this was not a report of shots fired in the neighborhood, or someone is seen brandishing a weapon or something like that. It's not, the initial call out was for something relatively
Smashing
minor that
windows.
happens every single day in Sacramento. Now, I don't know at all the level of response from that, but they clearly felt that there was enough, they needed enough, 2 officers and a helicopter to respond to that scene. Exactly. So I don't know about the training. I don't know their timeline. I just know that, let's say in other situations in LA when there was car chases all the time and then fatal accidents due to car chases, not from the suspects but from the response, there was a big debate in the community. I grew up in the LA area and we talked about it all the time of if there's a police chase, what are we supposed to do? Because we could get caught up into that. And for some departments, they decided, you know what, unless this is a life and death situation or the suspect is wanted for something clearly a known crime and all of that, at some point they will not engage because of all the unintended consequences that may happen. Now, of course, if someone's breaking into a car, you expect the police to respond. It's the level of response, the level of engagement. It's dark. It's in the middle of the night. Someone's hopping over the fences. You've got the bird coming on the way anyway with infrared camera. So there's things, and I think that that's probably a more useful debate for the community because now, when you watch the video, the experts and the citizens, I don't know if we can determine what exactly happened there. We all know that it's a tragedy. Let's take a step back before to try and figure out the flow chart of this was known, then they made this decision, and on and on and on. Because maybe if you back it up, that inconclusive, rash response, life and death, it's a tragic mistake. Maybe we don't get there. Maybe some decisions are made earlier so that that scenario can't unfold.
Right. And what the tough part about all of this is what we don't see, right? We don't see, yes, we have the body cam video, body cam footage, but we see just the wall when they begin to shoot. So we don't know if his hand went up and it looked like that he was pointing what looked like a gun or a tool at them. We don't know what caused police officers to shoot a 0.5 seconds is me just going on there. After they say gun, gun, gun. Were they talking about their gun, saying we have a gun, or were they saying gun, 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 referring to him having a gun? Again, isn't my
the next thing that has to be discussed, it has to be, is the training that they go through. Because look, they are trained, they spend so much time going through things. So their response, and you can hear it afterwards. You can hear the training when they say, okay, they're calling out what happened on the radio. They're checking on each other. Can you cover me? I'm going to reload. So they're in that moment. They're so highly trained that in that moment, how would we react? We don't know. We'd probably freak out. But they're trying to go back to something concrete that they've been taught that can save their life, minimize the impact. So they're going back to all that. So again, what I'm trying to say is, can we go back? Can we learn more about the level of response? If an officer is called out to a breaking and entering or theft or something like that, at some point do they not engage the suspect over fences, through backyards, if they have a helicopter available? I mean, all those sorts of things I would love to learn more about to understand the police officers and the department's point of view and how they got to how they got to that moment in the backyard where all chaos could happen because you can't see anything.
Because once you release that video, then and if we're not well informed, then we are
we need to know
speculating
more.
nothing.
We need to know more.
But
This
we
is
are
a-
thankful for
Yes.
the transparency.
Yes,
But go ahead.
absolutely.
Here's the first thing I thought of when I heard that he had a cell phone in his hand, and then watched the video and heard them say, "Show us your hands." But then directly after, it's gun, because they think that they see a gun. Walt pointed this out yesterday on Morning Blend. If you have a cell phone in your hand, there's no real other way to carry that cell phone other than like this. And if you're turning around, it could be anything. So I get that. But at the same time, because it could be anything, there is that desire from the public for a moment of pause. And nobody is casting judgment on anyone, but it's about the discussion that I was having yesterday about bias and understanding how different people interact with the police and the experiences that they've had with them in the past. And so if you grew up in a neighborhood where you didn't feel like the police were trustworthy, of course you're going to struggle, as maybe he did, who's been in and out of jail, who has had his interactions with the law. Maybe he doesn't want to quickly stop for that police officer. Whereas you will have people that are not black, people that are white, people that just don't have the same interaction with the police force that young black men do. And that young black men have been forced to understand
that they'll
as
never
a
know
result.
and
Exactly.
identify with,
as a
right.
result of the number of shootings, the Trayvon Martins, the Michael Browns, all of the Black Lives Matter movements that we've been talking about. When you have that sort of interaction with police, the police officers need to know they're searching for a young black man. They knew this. He might be thinking one way, and we have to take that into consideration when we're approaching him. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, let's get some viewer comments in here. Michael Quist says, why can't these suspects just cooperate with orders and reach into their pockets and pull something out in the dark? Of course, the liberal media will put all of the blame on the cops. And that is not what we're doing. We're not putting the blame on the cops.
If you are pulling something out and it's in your hand,
what else are you supposed to do?
what else are you
Drop
supposed to
it?
do? Exactly. You're listening. You're putting your hands up. There's something in your hands. What else do you do?
Keith Jugnato says a gun and a phone are two different things. Yes, we agree
they
with you in
clearly
that.
couldn't
But
tell the
they
difference.
clearly thought it was a gun. Ended up being there was no gun found at the scene. This case is still ongoing, but they did find a cell phone. So assuming that they thought the gun was the cell phone. Excuse me, thought the cell phone was the gun, but it wasn't. Paul, Patsy, Telus Mesa, tragedy is it happens in Grandma's backyard too. That poor woman will relive this for the rest of her life. I would still like to know why they didn't send in canine. So this is actually
knows
my
if they
aunt.
were
Thank
there.
you, Auntie Patsy, for chiming in here. But yeah, good question. Good question there. But yeah, for the grandma and any of the family members, of course. I can keep saying this. At the end of the day, is another death of a black man dying in our area who was unarmed. But now that we have the footage, where do we go from here? And how do we
Right.
continue to have that conversation
Right.
about, yes, in one case, it's despite the color of his skin, if this was a white man that was doing this, would they have reacted in the same way?
Right.
There's someone commented in the comments yesterday saying, wait, you had a kid by the name of Nicholas Cruz who killed 17 kids and staff members in southern Florida on Valentine's Day, yet he is alive today. And when they found him, because he also ran from campus, ran from police, if you will,
Right.
he's still alive today. Why wasn't the reaction toward a Nicholas Cruz the same, who happens to be white, the same as it was towards Stephon Clark, who happens to be black? Is it just coincidence that skin colors are different, or was this different? Do they want to see this guy alive? Do they want to ask him questions because he is a mass killer versus someone who's breaking into cars? They gunned him down. I don't know. And they're different departments, different parts of the
Right.
country. I don't know.
But then following up on that, Sansa Ray Jackson says that she doesn't believe they even tried to help him. Even after 20 shots fired and they knew he was dead, or I don't know that they knew he was dead after those
unresponsive,
shots.
yeah.
He was
He's not
unresponsive.
moving.
But that waiting period between when those shots were fired, watching all of them react, and then finally seeing the ambulance approach, I think I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but me watching it, I'm wondering, wow, is anyone going to check on him to see if he is actually dead or alive? Because we have precious moments to
Right.
try and save this life. If one, it's an innocent man who just happens
Right.
to be running away.
Or some are saying, okay, maybe he's not an innocent man. He was breaking into cars. This was the guy. He still
Right.
didn't
Right.
deserve to die. He
Right.
deserved due process.
Right. The
Correct.
punishment obviously does not fit the alleged crime, right?
Right.
So again, where can we what can happen out of all this that can be positive? And again, I think going back to the training, the level of response to engage with somebody in the dark through backyards, if they have a weapon or not. I mean, even for the officer's safety, even if there's two of them, at that moment, you know, I don't know where they're training. Are they trained that they have to engage no matter what? Or is there a moment, hey, anything could happen around that corner, the helicopter's on the way, let's just stand back for a second here, try and secure the perimeter, wait for backup. There's other things, and again, I'm the weather guy here, you know what I mean? But this is a moment where I can learn more about the process,
Right.
and then I can know, after I know what the whole process is here, the level of engagement versus what was happening on the ground and in those moments. Once I know all of that, then I can say, you know what, I think that that's too much for me. Or I could say, you know what, I totally understand that. This whole process, the flow chart of
Right.
this decision, all of that needs to be known, because that's really important for our understanding of all of this. Because I can tell you right now, as a citizen, right, if there is somebody, if I see somebody breaking into a vehicle, right, I am not going to engage with that person. I don't know exactly what's going to happen next.
You're not a trained police
However,
officer, right.
somebody has to engage with an alleged crime, and it's the police officers. For example, if you see somebody breaking into your neighbor's car, you're going to call the police, and you're going to
Hope that they go
yeah,
into
exactly.
the line
and
of
you're
fire,
going to
yeah.
expect them to do something about it. That's the whole point of it, and they know that they're expected to do something about it.
Correct.
However, is there a moment where they say, this is too dangerous for all involved? Especially, let's just say, if this could be one of those situations where they have a weapon and the individual has a weapon. Now you're in somebody's backyard. Now, if worst case scenario, gunfire is exchanged, now you're bringing innocent people into all this. Again, helicopters on the way. Was that a moment to stand back for a second and try and reassess the situation? I don't know, because the process needs to be more transparent. We need to know how those decisions were made in the moment.
But I think that on the other side of that, people are going to say, why has it taken so many of the exact same type of story to figure out what those steps are, to figure out what that process looks like, so we don't have to learn through another dead body,
Right.
so that we don't have to learn through another hashtag. Because at the end of the day, we want that information as consumers, as people who engage with strangers every day. You never know what's going to happen. You want that information,
Leslie.
but you don't want to learn it this way.
Right.
Right.
Right. No, I think everyone can agree with that. Leslie, goodness gracious, it moved on me, but she's going on to say why, and I'll just paraphrase this,
Right.
why did he have to run from police? Why did he have to run from
A lot of
police?
people are asking that question.
And if he wouldn't have ran from police, would this story have a different outcome?
Well, I beg the question then, in that moment, do we know he's moving? Because from the video,
Well, we see him jumping fences.
no, right. But when they find him in that backyard, there's not a lot of movement happening.
But in the first place, my question is, why did he run? Why did he run? If you know police are after you,
Right.
if you're innocent, don't run because your hands are up. And not to say that they wouldn't have shot. We don't know. This is speculating. But don't run, because if you're innocent, you're saying, I'm not doing anything. If you are guilty and you're running, there's going to be a different outcome. Not to say that he deserved death. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, why did he run from police? And it's a question not everyone, excuse me, a lot of people are
It
asking.
may just come down to just human fight or flight,
Right.
you know, in that I think we, you know, now that it's over, we can go back and we have the hindsight. We can talk about social issues and relationships and the whole long history of what we've seen recently. We can bring all of those angles and that depth of the conversation into it now. But you have to, none of that was going into that situation. This was a second by second. This happened. This is the reaction. This happened. This is the reaction. I mean, I think we bring a lot into it, as we should, because this is a historic event for this city. This is the first big incident for the new police chief, for the new mayor. They are on the record. They're getting out in front of this. They're communicating directly with the public on all of this. So this is a key moment where we can learn more. And again, bringing in all those other angles are important because they elevate the conversation. They add complexity, nuance, depth, all of that. But we have to remember how all of this started. All of that was not, I don't think, brought into it. It's just kind of a momentary thing. Police officers respond to these things in the middle of the night in rough neighborhoods all the time. So I think that they're thinking about just getting through the night safely and not bringing all this into it. However, now that this has happened, can we go back and say, how did this happen, and where is the cutoff point to prevent the unintended consequences of a tragedy?
And I think before we even get that answer, we're going to have to tackle the same thing that happens in each and every one of these shootings, and that's, will the police officers be found guilty of a crime in this case? Did they cross the line? And that, the hashtag might stop trending for a few days, but as soon as it comes out, the decision on how to handle what the police officers did, this will come right back up. The conversation will be reignited, and we're going to have answers for those people.
And
at
some
that
will
time.
say the police did their job. Others will say the police committed a crime.
But regardless, we need a solution that he's talking about. We need to have a system in place. And I talked about this yesterday. My cousin is part of a team that goes into police offices or precincts and discusses bias and how to fight that on an individual level. It's something that you do whether you've been there for 30 years or whether you've been there for 3 days. And it's programs like that and others that I don't know about yet that hopefully will stop this issue before the 30th person, the 35th person is taken down.
So the transparency level has been high so far. Within
Yes.
72 hours,
Check.
given 90 days, within 72 hours they release the video. So I'm hopeful that this conversation with transparency will continue to happen.
think
With the
so.
first African American police chief, the Sacramento Police Department, I'm interested and a bit hopeful that this conversation will continue and maybe we'll get some answers and even more transparency and the
heavy weight.
training will change, and I don't know, just answers for people will change, because they
It's
may
a
say
heavy weight on his shoulders.
a heavyweight, and they might say the training is good and it's working, and according to our standards, this is the outcome if you run from police, or if you have an object in your hand and you and you're in the dark and you hold it toward. We don't know that other side of the video angle.
Think about where we were a few years ago. Some police departments, they might have a body cam. Some wore it, some didn't. The batteries weren't working. No audio on this. We'll get them all together. We'll give you an edited version of these things. Look at this. This is the whole thing.
Come away, yeah.
From the police officer's point of view, this is the whole thing with audio, both of them, and the helicopters. So the level of transparency is very beneficial to the communities because we have more information, and it's just, and in this case, many people are saying it appears inconclusive. That is part of the whole point of body cams, is that the police say
More than what we had before.
Exactly, and at the end of the day, it is a true tragedy. And again, for the final time, I'm going to go back. At what point was there a bailout point to say, okay, this could get bad in a hurry? Maybe this is a point to kind of stop for 1 second and reevaluate and get more backup and get more information before we engage with this individual.
Well, we thank you guys for joining us in this conversation. We're going to continue to have this conversation off the air right now. We are live at 9. It's coming up in 15 minutes. If you guys need to know more information about this case, if you want to see that unedited video footage, the body cam footage, and from the helicopter, you can go to our website, abc10.com. The link is in the comments section.